Hello, everyone. Let's talk about some guilty pleasure albums through the ages. Let's open up and come clean. I have 10 here I'm going to list. I'm going to start off here with an album from 1980. It's titled Warm Leatherette from Grace Jones. This is named after the hit single from 1978 by a band called The Normal. She does a cover here. Had a sizable hit with it. On here, she covers Private Life by The Pretenders. She does Love is the Drug by Roxy Music, Breakdown by Tom Petty. But the highlight for me on this album, this should have been the hit. Had it been a different title, the song is called Bullshit. And the second track on side 2, it's highly infectious, has this great dance beat. And the lyrics go, I'm so tired of all this bullshit, same shit, wrong shit. So fantastic stuff here. Very entertaining album here. Grace Jones, Warm Leatherette from 1980. I also have like a real fascination with bubblegum rock as well. Here's a compilation that Warner Brothers put out in 1977. It's called Super Bubble. And it has just this it's a 2-disc set, 2-album set. Has all the great bubblegum classics on it. You've got the Ohio Express doing Chewy Chewy. Tracy by the Cufflinks. Indian Giver by the 1910 Fruit Gum Company. Daydream Believer by the Monkees. We've got Me and You and a Dog Named Boo by Lobo. Some songs in here that don't really belong on here as bubblegum. Brandy, I wouldn't really call that a bubblegum track. Here's the titles. But yeah, I've always liked these kind of silly bubblegum acts, bubblegum songs. One of my favorite on here is by the late Lou Christie, who just passed a few weeks ago, about a week ago, Lightning Strikes. So yeah, just a really fine curated compilation from Warner Brothers from 77 called Super Bubble. I think this was even advertised on US TV at one time. So yeah, another guilty pleasure. Super Bubble, bubblegum classics. Back in 1981, early 80s, there was a club that opened up in the valley, the San Fernando Valley. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. It's 20 miles, I don't know, not even 20 miles, 10 miles north of LA. And there's a city called Reseda. Tom Petty mentions it in the song called Free Fallin'. There was a little club that opened up called the Country Club. It was a drugstore, a Save-On drugstore. And all these really cool acts came through. Acts starting out. I remember seeing Missing Persons there. I remember seeing Chick Corea there. A lot of metal acts when they first started out, even though I wasn't really into metal. I would go there because it was a cheap way for a teenager to hang out when tickets were only like $5, $3 to get in. So I'd just go and watch everything, right? On the weekends, friends of mine would go. We'd have our parents drop us off there. So really cool club, the Country Club. I remember too seeing U2 there. U2 played their first show in LA or in the LA area at the Country Club in Reseda. So anyway, I would see a lot of metal acts coming up, starting out. And one of the acts, and I cannot stand this band, but I did like their first album, and I bought their release when it was released independently. I'm talking about Motley Crue. Their first album, Too Fast for Love. I must have saw these guys like a half a dozen times around 1981, 82, before they were signed to Elektra and became huge. What I liked about this album is it kind of reminded me of like early 70s glam, but with a kind of a harder edge, kind of glam, harder edge kind of vibe going on. Some of these songs would get, some airplay down the line when they would sign to a major label like Live Wire. Public Enemy #1 is a really cool kind of pop metal track. Merry Go Round, Take Me to the Top, Piece of Your Action. Starry Eyes, Stick to Your Guns, Come On and Dance, Too Fast for Love, On with the Show. It's not like Mozart, but it was pretty cool at the time. Even though I was never a metal fan, I always dug this album. I remember playing it a lot in 82. This is on their original label called Leather Records. And then, of course, after this, they would get signed to Elektra and become huge and obnoxious and on. But I always had a thing for this album when it first came out. No one really knew about them, and it was just released on an indie label. So the original version of Too Fast for Love by Motley Crue on Leather Records from 81. Years ago, decades ago, well, maybe like mid 80s. I was over at my sister's house and brother-in-law, and we're hanging out. I think we had just seen a concert the night before. My brother-in-law, in the morning, early morning hours, put on this album and cranked it up. And I couldn't believe how bad it was, but we were laughing our asses off because there's just something so infectious about it. It's so bad, but so entertaining. And that is Chris Montez's Foolin' Around album from '67. Chris Montez, when he started out, he was kind of like a Richie Valens type of rocker. You know, he had a huge hit with Let's Dance. Then he was signed to A&M, right? And they kind of geared him towards this kind of lounge singer kind of thing. So he had a hit in '65, a really cool hit called Call Me. And then after that, just, you know, flops. And this is a real flop of an album. I don't even think it hit the top 100 or 200. But my brother-in-law put this on, and he was cranking it up. And it is so entertaining. It's so bad, but it's so entertaining. His voice sounds like prepubescent. Sometimes you don't know if it's a girl or a boy singing. It's very androgynous. But the material he covers, it's all this kind of pseudo Brazilian kind of cocktail jazz kind of thing. So he does versions of like On a Clear Day You Can See Forever, Girl Talk, Because of You, Taste of Honey. And it's all delivered in this just very kind of fey vocal. The instrumentation is great. You know, there's marimba going on in there. There's all these bossa nova beats. But you have to hear it. It's really bad, but for us, it was very entertaining, and it's definitely a guilty pleasure. Chris Montez's Foolin' Around from 1967. Another one from 1985. This album got a lot of airplay. I couldn't stand their videos. Very, very lame videos, but I have to admit, they wrote some good pop songs. I'm talking about Wham! Make It Big. Now, I never really liked George Michael's solo stuff, but I did love some of the songs on here. Especially the track Careless Whisper. I think that's a really, really well-written ballad. Great vocal by George Michael. Other tracks like Freedom, great pop track. Wake Me Up Before You Go-Go is very, very poppy and bubblegum and on the border lame. But I kind of like that Hammond organ in there. Really cool. Everything She Wants, Heartbeat, Like a Baby. Yeah. There's some room for Wham in my life. So Make It Big from 1985. Love half of the album. Really, really good stuff. Good pop. Another one from the same era, around 1984, I believe, is Pleasure Victim from Berlin. Remember the song Sex and that refrain, I'm a man, I'm a man. That song's so hysterical for me. But I like some of these other tracks. Masquerade is really cool. The Metro is a cool track. I remember seeing, what's her name? Terry Nunn. I remember seeing her about 10 years ago in a local Trader Joe's market, just walking around with her two-tone hair. You know, no one knew who she was, but they still play occasionally at this local club I've talked about in previous videos called The Canyon in Agoura, California. Completely different lineup, just her, her at the mic and a bunch of hired hands, should we say, playing all the instruments. But yeah, I do like some of these tracks on here. I always liked the track Sex because it's just so twisted and demented and funny. So Berlin, Pleasure Victim from 84, or is it 83? I'm not sure. 1970, heard a lot of music being played in our living room. If it wasn't James Taylor's Sweet Baby James, or Ladies of the Canyon by Joni Mitchell, or Van Morrison Moondance, or what have you. I heard this album too a lot by my other sister, The Partridge Family, their first album. So along with that other great music, I was listening to a lot of this bubblegum pop as well. And I remember a couple of tracks on here too that really stood out to me. I Can Hear Your Heartbeat. I remember seeing the show. We all gathered around the TV and fall of 1970 watching this show. The track I'm on the Road, another one. And then, of course, the huge hit, I Think I Love You. If you look at the back cover, a lot of these session players that played on a bazillion different recordings during the 60s and early 70s are on here. You got Hal Blaine on drums. You got Joe Osborne on bass, Max Bennett on bass, Lou Shelton on guitar, Tommy Tedesco on guitar. So all these, studio cats. Then you've got David Cassidy's voice and Shirley Jones singing. So real bubblegum, but this is really more of a guilty pleasure. What would you say? Nostalgic pick here for me today. So the Partridge Family, 1970, their first album, the Partridge Family album. Another one from 77. I play this one still quite a bit. It is the debut from Bob Welch, formerly of the Fleetwood Mac Mark II lineup. And I think there are some fabulous tracks on here. The track Sentimental Lady, this one that's on here, I think is just absolutely such an imperfect pop song. And though it was already featured on Bare Trees in 72, I think I like this version better. It's a little more produced. And I think Christine McVie is even singing on this particular version. You've got Hot Love and A Cold World, another kind of minor hit. Stupid tracks like Mystery Train and Lose My Heart. They have some kind of a charm about them. Ebony Eyes is a cool track. Very 1977. You can just see see the lines of coke on the studio, console going on here. I'm sure just a lot of that happening during this recording. So Bob Welch, French Kiss from 77. Another guilty pleasure. Another one too, when it comes to disco songs, one of my absolute all-time favorite disco songs is More, More, More by the Andrea True Connection. I picked this up at a garage. Now, it wasn't a garage sale. It was a Rhino parking lot sale like 30 years ago, right? I think it was like 20 cents. But the whole album is pretty good. Really, really, really well-crafted tracks. Very much of its era and the whole disco thing. And I think More, More, More is just fantastic. So you got this former porn star on the cover here, Andrea True, looking like she just came out of heaven, had a porn star heaven, and on the back she's all dialed up in her cape right here. So I have a real thing for this album. It's really has this real weird infectious quality, and I'm featuring it today on Guilty Pleasures because it is indeed a guilty pleasure, and it's on the Buddha label from 1976, and there's only 5 tracks on here, 5 tracks. More, More, More being the big hit, obviously. Andrea True Connection from 76, More, More, More. Now, a lot of people, I think I've known maybe 1 or 2 people that love this artist. Otherwise, people bag on this artist. I don't understand why. I think these tracks are fantastic. I love her voice. I like the whole Brazilian vibe going on. Best of Sade. I don't get it. I don't understand the hate for Sade. Smooth Operator, Your Love is King. So many great hits from like the mid to late 80s, early 90s on here. I love her delivery. I like the instrumentation. Yeah, it's very slick, but who cares? There's a lot of great slick music. So another guilty pleasure, Best of Sade. What are your favorite guilty pleasures through the ages? Let me know. Don't be afraid. It's okay. Let them all out. It's okay on Capo Fetish. You can talk about whatever you want in the comments section. Throw those in the comments section. As always, thanks for watching. If you dig the content across the entire channel, please press subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And as always, have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.